We are the Trade Gods. Chev, good to have you here. Wonderful day. We've got league winners, bring home the bacon players, quarterback, receiver, running back, tight end. Drake Maye, what do you got on him?
Listen, so Drake Maye is this is the new hotness. This is the hot boy. This is the guy that's outside of the top 10 rounds in ADP that I feel like is going to be a household name. Being the number 3 pick overall in the NFL draft would make you a household name, but now he's crossing over into immortality when he gets to become a household name in these fantasy streets. So you've got a guy in Drake Maye who gets an upgrade from a play caller perspective. He now has a supporting cast. They go and draft Will Campbell 4th overall. They draft Travion Henderson 38th overall, sniping the Bears and giving us, saving us from, now Travion Henderson is getting steamed up, but not to the level he would be if he was, with Ben Johnson. And you've got Kyle Williams and the Booty Warrior, Kayshon Boutte and Hunter Henry. And you've got this optimism surrounding the environment with Drake Maye. And none of that is the coolest part about Drake Maye from a fantasy perspective. It's the fact that he is Josh Allen light when it comes to using his legs. So second highest scramble rate in the entire NFL his rookie year. Through his first 6 starts, he had the 4th most rushing yards ever for a quarterback since the year 2000. And then he's averaged 7.7 yards a carry last year. He was only a few yards behind Bo Nix in total yards rushing, and he started 4 less games. So you have a guy with Konami code upside that I don't think people are taking that into account. And when the chips get down, he's able to extend plays. He's got that magic in him to extend plays and make things happen off schedule. Being with a guy like Josh McDaniels, who just builds easy buttons into the offense, is such a cheap way to get you a QB1 with crazy upside. And so Drake Maye to me represents the opportunity to get a Konami code quarterback outside of the top 10 rounds. And I can't pass that up ever.
Hey, I absolutely love that. And funny enough, thinking about the rushing for Drake Maye, because I've been all in on Drake Maye all offseason. I got hordes of pics of him in underdog streets. And Scott Fishbowl, I went with him. I love Drake Maye. Drake Maye, he's going to go to the moon. He's going to bring home the bacon. We are talking the tier of Jalen Hurts and Joe Burrow. Drake Maye is going to join. I think he could absolutely join the Lamar, Jaden, and Josh Allen tier as well. As you said, Josh Allen light. Safely, though, you're going to have Drake Maye up there with Jalen Hurts and Joe Burrow. You love to see it. You spoke about the rushing yards. A couple weeks ago, I was talking about 500 rushing yards for Drake Maye on another show. But then I recounted and thought about the fact that in college, you get the sack loss yardage that takes off your rushing yardage. So we can incorporate even more for Drake Maye, and as you said, extrapolated across an entire season where he had caught on the heels of Bo Nix the rushing yardage. I think we can see 700 to 800 yards rushing, and we can get for Drake Maye 8 to 10 touchdowns. So I'm all there with you. Blue chip stocks are very expensive right now. Josh Allen is one of those stocks in fantasy football. Drake Maye, I'm telling you, yesterday's price, tomorrow's price, you have to draft like you're correct. And we're going to presume that come 2026, Drake Maye is up in that tier where he's top 7 pick in a superflex draft. And why not pay up for the haul right now if you can? And there's people who, like you, like me, they're going to want a haul already. So it's beginning to be too late. But at the same time, you can still get him. These prices in these drafts, in your redrafts that you're getting right up to week 1, go out and make sure you're getting Drake Maye as your second quarterback. Pay up as much as you can. Is it round 3 that you can get him? Beautiful. Is it round 4? Probably not, but maybe in a casual superflex league. And then if you can set your team right now on underdog, early round 10 in single quarterback format. So in your redraft, should that follow, you're talking about setting up the base of your entire team. And then you've got Drake Maye there. So I'm all in on Drake Maye. He's going to bring home the bacon. He's going to be a league winner for you. So Chev, you and I are simpatico on that. Give us a running back, Chev. Who's going to cook and bring home the bacon?
Oh, yeah, it's my guy. It's Chase Brown. It is Chase Coriander Brown the third. So Chase Brown, noted Canadian, most famous Canadian in the world right now. Chase Brown is a workhorse. Going into 2024, I said that he was this year's Kyron Williams, and now he gets to be Kyron Williams East Coast again. The ridiculous snap share from weeks 9 to 18, around 85%. We could regress to even like 65 to 70% of the snap share. He's still going to handle over 80% of the carries like he did in 2024 from weeks 9 to 18. He's still going to catch a ton of passes. He was fifth at the position in routes run and didn't see 5 targets in the game until week 9. So from that point forward, he finished fifth overall at the position in receptions. So you've got a guy who has the pass catching upside, who has the workload inside the 5-yard line, who's in one of the most elite offensive environments in football, and people seem to not care. They're just like, well, what about Taj Brooks? What about Samaje Perine? But Chev, he was a 5th round pick. At what point do we have to let that go? At what point, when someone sustains 20 points a game for a half a season, like at what point do you have to let that, like, do you have to let the 5th round pick thing go? It's like, do you think that the team is like, oh, he was a 5th round pick, we can't hand him the ball in this situation? No, because they've already done that before. So let's not make a straw man argument about the 5th round pick thing anymore. We're 2 years removed from that. He can clearly play American tackle football at the professional level. So Chase Brown represents to me the cheapest opportunity to get a guy who has a top 5 workload. And I think there's a path, more than one path, where Chase Brown's a top 5 running back this year. Full stop, no equivocations.
And the thing about Chase Brown, too, you mentioned the draft capital. Hey, people loved Aaron Jones, and he persisted and was excellent for them. So we can drop the draft capital thing, and especially we understand that this game is all about opportunity. You got the attrition position of the running back position. Quinshon Judkins, Travion Henderson, both going in opposite directions, but both players pre-NFL draft, very high on their stock. The Cincinnati Bengals went and had some interviews with them. I really thought we were going to get some Ohio connection there with the Bengals and Ohio State. And it was really out there for a long time where Chase Brown, hey, he's going to plummet. His value is going to be cooked. We got 1 year out of him. That's it. He has survived everything. And to your point, where you have Taj Brooks as maybe the largest threat, we're going to get the opportunity share that we want. It's run back city for the Cincinnati Bengals. They can't stop anything. They couldn't stop a bloody nose. They can't stop mucus coming out of their nose. It's bad, but it's great for us. Joe Burrow is going to feed Chase Brown. And right now, Chase Brown, he is soaring up to the 19th pick overall. He's in that middle second round in single quarterback formats. So you are starting to get that crystallized. And it's funny enough, there's nobody in the way. Brian Robinson Jr., just a guy, right? Goes to the 49ers. All those sweepstakes where you're hearing about running backs and teams being interested. Well, guess what? The Cincinnati Bengals aren't there. They're not calling. They're not showing up. And if it didn't happen through the draft process, sure, could it have happened? But the way the draft played out, the Bengals are absolutely fine with what they've got. And when he did get hurt in that game, week 17 last year against the Broncos, I did kind of hold my breath because the Bengals were probably thinking, oh man, Chase Brown goes down. We're in deep trouble. But apparently not, because the machinations of what has gone from the entirety of the offseason to this very point, we have not seen anybody who's tangibly just superb who could threaten, right? Chase Brown. So I'm right there with you. Big on Chase Brown, and he should absolutely cook in 2025. Now, we want to cook in Trade Gods. We want to cook in Dynasty. We've been talking redraft, but let's hear a little bit about Dynasty.
Hey, what if I told you there was a Dynasty app where you could get player lifetime values, evaluate trades, including draft picks out to 2028, compare the advanced metrics of 2 players, look up the sentiment, buy, sell, hold on players? Well, there is a mobile app that has all of that and more called the Dynasty Dominator, and it's $5 in the App Store on Google Play. This is my gift to you, the most affordable Dynasty League domination app available today. And if you already have it, the 2025 class is ready to download. Let's go.
Go and get it. Chev, we are bringing home the bacon for Braylon Allen, New York Jets running back. Is going to be a running back 1, an RB1 in 2025. I'm calling it. Brees Hall is going to get traded, and you're going to get the David Montgomery run out with hypothetically no Jahmyr Gibbs, but you're going to get it in New York. So we saw last year what Jahmyr Gibbs could do without David Montgomery. We haven't really been able to see so much David Montgomery unadulterated. We are going to get that with the New York Jets. Brees Hall will get traded this year, and Braylon Allen will be an RB1. And right now, you can get Braylon Allen in the middle of the 12th round. In the last month, he's gone up 3 rounds from round 15. Still, past round 10, just super kick for the upside on players. I've been clicking Ollie Gordon at the 9-10 turn. Who cares at that point? We've got a team scaffolded, and throw the risk out the window at that point. Braylon Allen, again, you can get him in the middle of round 12. I see it happening for him. And if Brees Hall gets out of the way, it's even more wheels up. So I love this. It's also a pick. And we're talking about who, as you're drafting these next couple weeks, you don't have to pay top 5 round prices. We're talking about a guy who's going to help win you your league. You can scaffold and go 0 running back. He's the perfect running back to go 0 running back because you could have the takeover and run out. That's pure upside to an RB1 for Braylon Allen, but also you're building in a guy who's going to print points for you. And if you need an RB2, at least production, and you go anchor running back, Braylon Allen's that perfect guy who could fill in those 10 points and then boost even higher with the asymmetrical upside should he get the job via injury or from a trade. So I am high on Braylon Allen, and I love what I see. Chev, what do you think of that?
Braylon Allen has grown on me a ton. So I love Braylon Allen coming out of Wisconsin. That everybody compared him to Derrick Henry Light because he's such a big, fast human being. And you know what, he came out of the gates hot in 2024. He showed a versatile skill set. I like what I've seen from him in the preseason. Those feet look a little bit more lively than I remembered in 2024. So they're switching over from more of a zone scheme to more of a gap scheme. I think that that's going to benefit Braylon Allen more. It's not every running back strength to try to find the backside crease in. So I think if Brees Hall gets traded, it's wheels up for Braylon Allen. You're going to sprinkle you in some Isaiah Davis, but at the price point that Braylon Allen is, he's definitively going to have a role in 2025. There's no arguing about that. The problem is, how much of a role is it with Brees Hall? But if there's no Brees Hall, he becomes one of the cheapest assets that represents workhorse ability at the position. So yeah, I love Braylon Allen this year. I'm in lockstep with you. He's been one of my last round picks in every single redraft that I do. And so I'm really excited about Braylon Allen this year.
And you're talking about Grand Canyon size gaps to that gap scheme with the Jets. They're just opening up holes like crazy. And then you're going to have the off balance element of Justin Fields keeping defenders off balance. Braylon Allen is just a mass of a human being who's just going to truck guys too. So you get huge gaps. You've got that unbalance that's provided that helps with the threat of Justin Fields as well. And then you've got the physicality that Braylon Allen offers, and you're getting the opportunity share. So the fourth element to that, where I'm talking about opportunity share, we have like a base level, but then we just have unadulterated optimism and height that can be reached for Braylon Allen. So we've got Chase Brown and Braylon Allen. They're going to bring home the bacon at the running back position. So far, we have Drake Maye. And let's go over to the wide receiver position. I know this guy, you've been drafting him plenty, and you're hyped on him. But tell people, push comes to shove. They're in these redraft streets. The baseball has to look like a beach ball at this point. Tell us how easy it is to click on Jameson Williams.
I've been on this train for quite some time. And so I was curious, after watching Jameson Williams in 2024 as a full-time player for the first time, he looked like the guy at the University of Alabama that just has a different gear than anybody else on the football field. And the numbers kind of bear it out. So I was pulling this up as you were talking about singing the praises of Mr. Braylon Allen. I was pulling it up and I was looking at Jameson Williams in terms of 50-yard catches. So he tied for the league with Jamar Chase in 50+ yard receptions with 5. Jamar Chase had 175 targets. Jameson Williams had 91. He had tied for the NFL lead in 50+ yard touchdowns with 4. Like that's in that Saquon Barkley territory, like 50+ yard. You start getting into those. And so Jameson Williams not only represents that, but he's in an elite offense. He's the number 2 target in an elite offense. He has a dynamic running game that creates opportunities for play action and big shots over the top, like the one against the Bears in, the fantasy playoffs last year, where you could just very clearly could see he has a different level of ball tracking and speed than anybody else on the field. So Jameson Williams is, to me, what Tyreek Hill was to the Kansas City Chiefs back in the day. It's not up until those last year or two, it was kind of spotty. Like early on, it was kind of spot work. His second year, I think he was the wide receiver 4, but it was on basically 105 targets. So it doesn't take a ton of. He wasn't the wide receiver 4, but he was like basically like 1,108 touchdowns on 100 targets. So it represents the opportunity to grab a piece in an elite offense that can win you a week at any single point in time. And you want to take swings on that league-winning upside. Jameson Williams is a 5th-round pick right now. If you can get a guy that represents league-winning upside, you know who he is? He's Tyreek Hill. He's potentially the ceiling's Tyreek Hill, but the floor is what Will Fuller used to be for your fantasy teams back in the day. But
keep going.
Yeah, that's just that excites me when I think about that. Like, it might be 4 points, but it might be 25.
He's a lid lifter. Jameson Williams is an absolute lid lifter. And it's funny, in looking at the stats with the 91 targets and clearing 1,000 receiving yards last season, I'm reminded of George Pickens, who hung 1,100 yards on just over 100 targets. And we talk about George Pickens, Jameson Williams, can they get 20, 30 more targets? And we just see an entire lid lifting on their statistics. So it's funny how this parallels with George Pickens, Jameson Williams. I'm not capping either player by comparing them to each other, but I see a lot of that ability to lid lift, both for Jameson Williams and George Pickens. So as you're talking about, and I know you're huge and high on George Pickens as well. So it's interesting to hear you talk about the Tyreek element, the Will Fuller element. I absolutely see that. And Jameson Williams, he's somebody who I was ecstatic to get him in the 4th round of a super flex. Loved it. And I'm very happy that I've been on that train with you. I have high exposure to Jameson Williams, and he can really, you have to think all the way back to his college days where he was just a cheat code. And when he came in with the Lions, of course, he's had some injuries and he's had suspension problems, but he was kind of a player who could get, 3 targets, but it's a lot. It's a Deshaun Jackson-like effect for Jameson Williams, where he can hang a 70-yard touchdown on you and just minimal targets and maybe a handful of receptions, barely. But now, last year, 6 targets a game. I think we can enter into that 8 target a game, 9 target a game range for Jameson Williams. And why not keep going back to the well on Jameson Williams? As you're saying, as you keep thinking about it, you got to tell a story because it hasn't happened yet. But in order for it to happen, it actually has to start happening. And the more targets, the more success. Why wouldn't they just keep going to that? So it's like you can see this exponential growth, kind of like when you have a waiver wire ad and you're like, well, I'll $9. Oh no, I maybe 15. And then you just keep upping the bid against yourself. Well, we can see that with projecting Jameson Williams and George Pickens.
Both, yeah.
You start outbidding and telling the most optimal story in the run out, like you had said, hey, give him Jameson Williams 30 more targets and the ceiling is roof.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it just takes going. You said 6 targets a game. If he just goes to 7 targets a game and he plays all 17 games, that's 119 targets.
Yes.
Just him being available for all 17 games. We have a clear path to 120 targets. You're telling me Jameson Williams is going to get 120 targets. I'm telling you he's going to be a top 12 wide receiver.
And Jameson Williams, he's a core build. I've got these bets where it's 6 receivers for 1,000-yard parlays. George Pickens and Jameson Williams are 2 core players in that. And George Pickens, I had cited just over 100 targets, had an 1,100-yard season. So with Dak Prescott, we're going to get those extra targets. And to me, 1,000's easy. It's just health. And then to what we've been talking about, 91 targets and clearing 1,000 yards for Jameson Williams. So great call on that, Chev. Bringing home the bacon with Jameson Williams. For me, it's Calvin Ridley. He's this year's Terry McLaurin. Number 1 in air yards last year, 5th in ADOT, 3rd in deep targets, and 1st in unrealized air yards. So a little bit of a Terry McLaurin problem. People talk about Terry McLaurin's regression this year. Well, how about if Terry McLaurin realizes a lot of the unrealized yards he even still had last year in that breakout late towards, age 30? Calvin Ridley can absolutely do that again. And we're going to realize more yards. You know why? Because it's not Will Levis throwing the football to Calvin Ridley. It is Cam Ward. Or if you want to be the sophisticated Winnie the Pooh, Cameron Ward. Cam Ward is absolutely cooking. He's got a Kobe Bryant work ethic. Talking about, the job that sucks that his dad had. And hey, he could get up at 4 or 5 a.m. You love to hear that. So Cam Ward can go to a job that he loves, getting up at 5 a.m. and being in the facility up bright and early. I like that tied to somebody like Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley has to be happy about that. Think about, you've been puttering around from team to team. You had that commitment from a guy who was very serious about his craft and his profession in somebody like Matt Ryan. But now you get this youthful kid who's got just way more talent as far as arm ability. We got Brett Favre comparisons with Cam Ward, a little bit of the wild side, but a lot of that good that came with Brett Favre's arm is there with Cam Ward. Calvin Ridley, though, to me, 37% air yard share, 23% target share. He's not the only show, because we love Alec Manor. We could see a little bit of fumes on Tyler Lockett's career. We'll see what Xavier Restrepo does. And, of course, we love ourselves some Chig Okonkwo. We love the target share late season. But, yeah, Chev, for the audience, Chev is a huge Titans fan. So every time that I've gone off on this Calvin Ridley tangent, I think Chev is maybe blacked out some. But also maybe Chev doesn't feel like he could have that permission for the optimism since it's his team. But I'm here selling it for you, and I feel like you're in on it too.
Yeah, from the moment that you said it on a different show, and maybe shortly after the draft, it was.
Before you did your taxes.
Yeah, like before the April 15th deadline, for sure. So it's like, hey, Calvin Ridley could be this year's Terry McLaurin. The moment that Cam Ward was in a Tennessee Titans uniform. So props to you for that. And it's consistent. I felt pretty good about Cam Ward as a prospect because he's played enough games. He's seen enough. And that makes me super confident in Calvin Ridley because of the fact that he still clearly got juice. He came into the league. This is only his 7th year, and this is only really his 5th year playing a full, or 6th year playing a full season because of the suspension and then the mental health absence, which he seems to have gotten in order. Every time you hear him, it's something very positive about the team, about the environment, about his outlook. And so that's great to see. And Cam Ward gives him an opportunity to be seen as the type of talent that he absolutely is. If I were a betting man, which I am, I would lay down a bet that he's going to finish with 1,250 yards this year. That's what if he stays healthy, that's what we're locking in with Calvin Ridley. So we just need a little bit of touchdown luck to get us into that top 12 to 15 range in points per game. And Calvin Ridley is one of the elite talents as a technician and a professional at the position. So I absolutely love this point that you made here.
Hey, talk dirty to me about Calvin Ridley because, like Jameson Williams, George Pickens on those parlay, those builds on the 1,000 yards receiving, one of those core players for me is who I just spoke about in Calvin Ridley. And you said it best when you said 12. I'm just asking for 1,000, and you're talking about maybe inwards of 12. Beautiful. You love to see it. Now, here's a player, Chev. You are banging the drum. You're consistent. And every time I click on him, or I lay some kind of a bet for him, I think of you, Tucker Kraft, Packers tight end. Can he be a top 2 target? Would he possibly be the top target in that Packers offense? What say you, Chev?
I think that we have to do there's a little wish casting that has to be done here. And it has to be consistent with Matt LaFleur's word on what he's been saying about Tucker Kraft since the offseason started. And Matt LaFleur made it a point to absolutely give Tucker Kraft and how excellent he's been, his kudos, and saying that he's a force and we need to find ways to get him the ball more. By all accounts, during training camp this year, prior to the Jordan Love injury, the left hand injury or finger of some sort, he missed camp missed some camp with a surgery. Now he's good to go. I think he's back practicing again. But all that being said, Tucker Kraft was the primary target early on in camp, and they're making good on their promise to feature him. So Tucker Kraft basically was 9 points a game last year, and he was a free space. But he gives you weekly tight end 1 overall upside because he's an elite run after the catch option. He led the position by far by over 3 yards at 9.38 yards after contact, or yards after the catch per attempt last year. So he's creating these opportunities. He finished 4th at the position in touchdowns with 7, and he's creating these opportunities. He's just showing you that he's good at football every single time. And you know what coaches do when you show them that you're good at football? They believe you and they create more opportunities for you. So Matthew Golden is what we think they could have an alpha as a wide receiver, but firmly behind him in that pecking order would be Tucker Kraft, or they could just go full heel and just start treating him like baby George Kittle and featuring him like they did way back in 2019 when George Kittle had 1,300 yards. Now, I'm not going to say that, but I think that we could get Tucker Kraft to 90 to 100 targets, and he's finishing as a top 3 to 5 tight end just because he's so efficient. So apologies for fumbling through that whole yards after the catch per attempt thing. But the point is, you need Tucker Kraft is like my tight end 6. And I think he has top 4 upside. So keep that in mind in your drafts. He's available after the 10th round. You might want to bump that up to the 8th or 9th round if you punt on tight end. Or you can just take George Kittle in the 3rd or 4th and then get him in the 9th. Yin and the yang, however you want to play it.
Hey, and you said it best, because as you were talking about it, I'm looking 70 targets. Can he get to 100? You're talking 90 to 100. Can he get up from a 4 target pace per game to 7? We're telling ourselves, can we get 3 to 3.5 more targets on average? Can we get into the 8 territory? Like you said, with the George Kittle, it makes me think of Jim Ross in the WWE. We were talking about wrestling pre-show. Like, by God, stop the match. That would be one of those things where it would just be like a Shawn Michaels super kick where the rest of the league, how do you handle this guy who's just going off in Tucker Kraft? There's the comparisons to the 49ers. I think it's very apt that you said that with George Kittle, because the Packers setup, the 49ers setup, there's like a rich setup with the 49ers and kind of like a broke setup with the Packers.
Yeah.
But the parallels and the talent are very similar. And of course, coaching styles are very similar. So it just makes sense that we see all these similarities. And if you can just hit on a Ricky Pearsall, who we think is a wide receiver 1, if you can just hit on who you think is Matthew Golden in the whack-a-mole Packers receiver room, well, you have the stalwart tight end in George Kittle, and we're seeing it happen and crystallize with Tucker Kraft, but you don't have to pay for it yet. And to your point, you can get towards that 9-10 turn. And if you want to pay up, like Chev said, pay up in that round 8 territory. Here's a guy, though, too, as well. Chris Collinsworth over here. Here's a guy. David Njoku, in that same range of ADP. You'll see them married at ADP. David Njoku, for me, with Tucker Kraft, give me David Njoku as a top 3 tight end in 2025. 8.8 targets a game. So he's already there, target-wise, where Tucker Kraft wants to get. And add that to a 17-game total. The problem is David Njoku has a T. Higgins and a Ken Walker issue. All 3 players played 11 games last season. David Njoku, can we extrapolate? We got to play the extrapolation game with Ken Walker. We got to play it with T. Higgins, which you didn't have to play it week 17 with T. Higgins because he won you your league. But we extrapolate with David Njoku, and he is last year 6th in tight end targets at a 17-game pace, so total at 8.8. You can get that up to 149. Guess who else at targets in 17 games last year? Brock Bowers with 148. Trey McBride, 139 in 16 games. So we're getting David Njoku at a target rate with Joe Flacco throwing him the football, and it's wheels up. It's just nirvana there as far as fantasy football goes. Joe Flacco, Jameis Winston, very similar as far as how they just run things. And Njoku and Jerry Jeudy, they're just going to get fed in 2025. And I'm happy to take the risk with David Njoku. The whack-a-mole merry-go-round that will be the quarterback room can cause some fear and fright. But I've heard something. This would be really cool. Let David Njoku run out the first 5-6 weeks, ball out with Joe Flacco. When it's time to hit the trade deadline, a team, maybe Zach Ertz doesn't have the juice, and the Commanders trade for somebody like David Njoku, and Harold Fanning can just slide in, who you love, for the Cleveland Browns. And then you have a path where David Njoku and Jaden Daniels are just linking up simpatico. A huge target is David Njoku, just a professional, aging like a fine wine. Tight ends, the best ones, they tend to do that. And I just love David Njoku this year. Whether he gets traded or not, give me some David Njoku. So there you have it with our tight ends. We got Tucker Kraft and David Njoku. Your thoughts on David Njoku?
I mean, he's one of the most athletic tight ends in the league. And we saw him in 2023 with Joe Flacco be the tight end one in those games. Basically, the games that Joe Flacco started, he paced to be he was the tight end one in points per game. So I think that if, as long as Joe Flacco is the quarterback, I really love David Njoku. He's clearly a focal point of the offense. That's a Stefanski thing. Like, you have Drew Petzing over in Arizona, that very similar styles off the Kevin Stefanski tree. So we're talking about a guy who is the focal point of an offense. He's going to lead or be second in target share between, he and Jerry Jeudy. So he's the clear second option, no matter how you slice it. Whoever the receiver is first. And so that's what you want in a guy with literal tight end one overall upside and elite athleticism at the position.
Man, tight end has gotten so good. I was very close with Tyler Warren, somebody else with what has opened up with Daniel Jones. That's just an honorable mention. And I wouldn't go too crazy to say something like Adonai Mitchell, but I will just mention how he is cooking people left and right all the time. So I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent. And Chev, you and I, we talk about, this is how we get here, though. We start, offline. We'll talk about all these sorts of scenarios, and then it kind of comes to fruition. So it's kind of fun to see how things have played out through the offseason. We've met at quarterback. Bring home the bacon. It's going to be Drake Maye. Tight ends, you can go Tucker Kraft or David Njoku. At the running back position, you can take basically all these players at different ADPs, because we presented different ADPs. Of course, the tight end juxtaposition, you'll have to make a choice between Kraft and Njoku. But you can get Chase Brown in that second or third round, and then go and get Braylon Allen in round 12. And then, of course, Jameson Williams and Calvin Ridley, you can get them in back-to-back rounds. So excellent show, Chev. Trade gods. These are the bring home the bacon players who will win you your league, all at different ADP points. We will see you next week.
From the Podfather to you, I deeply appreciate you tuning in. And many ask, what can I do? What can I do to help support the hosts, the research they do, the production costs? Go to PlayerProfiler.com, Dynasty Deluxe, World Famous Draft Kit, Rankings, DFS Dominator, and of course, Data Analysis. Subscribe to any one of those, and you support all of us and take Player Profiler to the moon.